The views shared in this episode represent Kelli and Kendra, not our mamas, partners, church, job, or sponsors.
All right. I am excited to welcome Mama Sheryl to the podcast today. Mama Sheryl, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I'm Sheryl, Sheryl Thomas-Washburn, and I'm a mom of three, two that are a direct result of my presence, and one that came as a bonus to the marriage to my husband, who is Les Washburn. And I am a person who just really enjoys life. I don't follow the rails really well. And so I'm always to the right or to the left or in the outfield. I'm never right in the center of anything. So that has been a challenge and a blessing in my life. But when it came to working, it would be a challenge because I was always thinking outside the box. Where people really wanted me was in the box. And I'm not in the box person. And I think that I've done a pretty decent job of passing that along to my children, who are not children anymore, but just absolutely amazing adults. And if I haven't done anything else in my life well, I like to say that I brought some pretty good souls into this world who I think will do a really good job at making a difference in the lives of others. So that's me.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say I only know one proof of that, but
we co-sign.
We can co-sign for 1/3 of your children.
Yes, absolutely. I was curious, Mama Sheryl, what was it like of your generation to be an outside of the box Black woman?
It was, I want to use the word awful because when I look back on it, it feels awful. Yeah. It feels like it was, I can see that now. But as I was going through it, I focused a lot on just doing me in a world, in a household where everyone was different. So I was always the odd child out. I have a sister and I had a brother who passed away about 30 years ago. He passed away when Megan was born, actually. And I was the child who was going to tell you how she felt, even if it meant a spanking was coming with it. Yeah. I was the one who, when my father would say, "Be quiet," I wanted to know why I needed to be quiet. Right. And I still am that person. And my family hasn't necessarily adapted to embracing it. They tend to just try to shut it down. For example, I know there are conversations that go on that go something like this. How should we say this to Sheryl? How do we keep from hurting her feelings? How do we keep from upsetting her? And so at least those conversations are happening. But I'm definitely, I want to say the black sheep. That makes it sound bad, but I have learned to embrace it. It was difficult trying to be who everybody else was because I never was that. I would pretend. I pretended very well. I pretended through my entire first marriage that I could be the woman who goes to church and in the choir and in charge of Women's Day and all of that stuff. And it wasn't my truth. It was never my truth. And I knew that. I knew that probably at 8.
That's a great segue because first of all, I was going to say, I can absolutely relate. As Kelli knows me for 30 years, she knows. I sound like I'm talking to myself in a couple of years. So That makes me feel good. Like, okay, I'm still gonna be fine.
You'll be fine.
Thank you. You started talking about, kind of playing the role and trying to do what was expected of you. And you mentioned a couple of things. Again, I can relate to being in church, helping, being the chair of Women's Day. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about not only what it's like to be the oddball or of the family or not the black sheep, but not so negatively, but how faith tradition plays in that. What faith tradition you grew up with and how it kind of impacted, who you are and how you
Mhm.
move in the world.
Absolutely. I grew up in a Christian Baptist household. Every Saturday was cleanup day at the house. And music was always playing, and it was always a combination of soul music and gospel music, which those memories are actually just awesome, because we'd be singing and dancing, and we work with my mother and we create dances that we would perform for like my father or other people. It was kind of weird but fun. And then on Sundays we would go to church. We would be in church. We would go to church for service. Sometimes we would go to Sunday school, but we would go to church for service from 11 until 2 o'clock. We would leave. We'd run to my grandmother's house. We'd eat dinner. Then we'd go back to church for afternoon service, where we would be until, depending on who was preaching, we could be there until like 7 o'clock. And we get home and we'd be tired and go to bed. And that was almost every Sunday. But a very distinct memory I have is listening to a minister uh, who was a wonderful person, uh, but I'm trying to be really tactful and I can't think of how to say this the best way. There were some things that he lacked, like education. I'm not even sure if he had graduated from high school as I thought about it, but his education was shaped in Southern Alabama kind of way. And I remember sitting in a Sunday school class and listening to this man talk about God and how if we didn't believe, we were going to hell. And I, I, I remember wondering, well, oh my God, I better believe in God because I don't want to go to hell, first of all. But then, even as like an 8-year-old, I remember thinking, this man, he's not the brightest light on the block. How is he leading us someplace when we know Grandma Aura is not going to be able to listen to this because she's going to be mad at me. I see you, Megan. He wasn't. I'm like, how?
We all know that preacher. We got one.
And he couldn't enunciate his words correctly, and we would laugh. And one day, when we're not recording, I tell you about that. He was a great soul. He was a wonderful person. My parents thought very highly of him. My family thought very highly of him. He was there when we needed him a lot as a spiritual guide, a spiritual leader for the household. But I always knew that that wasn't what my path was supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I could fake it. But I was always the one asking questions, and I was always the one being told to be quiet. I would watch everybody get happy and wonder what was wrong with me, what was going on inside of them, how was I missing that, what was I doing wrong. My sister she's in deep with church, and she's a singer, and she's just amazing. And my ex-husband calls her the prodigal child of that church because she's so amazing. And she still is now at her old church, and she at her new church, and she just does everything. She's the secretary, she's the choir director, she's the person who goes out every time they go any place. And I'm just like, she's at church on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then all day Saturday, and all day for me, it works for her, but for me, that's just awful. I can't even wrap my mind around that, around that at all. And so that makes me different from every single person in my house, with the exception of my kids, who this rubbed off on. But I evolved and I left that church
Mm-hmm.
and dragged my kids with me. Oh my gosh, you would have thought the world was going to end. Oh my gosh, you would have thought the devil was coming to take us away. Oh, we were done. And I felt really bad. But I moved to a Unity church.
Oh.
And what moved me to a Unity church was I was reading, someone told me to read A Course in Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Course of Miracles, it speaks to there is no separation.
Mm-hmm.
That spirit that we call God is within you. No one had ever said that to me before, but my first time reading that, it made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only thing that made sense to me. And so I grew in there in that church and the Unity structure. And I found myself wanting to go to the Unity Training Center in Kansas City to train to be a minister.
Oh.
I know. Oh, it goes away. Trust me. I was going to do it. And so I went and I talked to my minister at the time. It was my first time having a female minister.
Megan, I need you to fix your face because you doing all
She
that
knows the
talking with
story.
you doing all that talking with your face. I just had to say that.
She a free spirit. Stop playing.
He's like,
It gets worse. So I spoke to her about pursuing the ministry, and she said, well, why would you ever want to do that? What? Wait, what?
The
And
preacher, the preacher said, okay.
woman said, why would you ever want to do that? And I'm thinking she's going to support me and be like, right, yes, Sheryl, you're doing all these things here already, right? I was in the choir, I was leading all these other things, doing all this wonderful stuff. And when she said that, that kind of blew that whole candle out for me, because if she was saying that to me, I wasn't even sure what it meant. I just knew that somehow something was saying, nope, don't do this.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. So I noticed that caused me to slow down in what I was doing with Unity. But I moved out to California and tried to connect with Unity churches out there. They were not the same. That whole experience was becoming different for me. But what I did connect with was the Center for Spiritual Living. Yeah. But I went there and I get there and every person that is different in any kind of way was at this building. And that became my group. The people I hung out with, the people I did stuff with.
Yeah.
And they were open to everybody. You didn't have to believe one way or another. But we came together to celebrate spiritually. The idea of spirituality took on a whole new meaning for me. One of the things I recognized when I was in the Baptist church is that spirituality and religion are not the same thing. And so I began letting go of religion and fully embracing the idea of spirituality. And with that came things like meditation, more behavior, more mindfulness, and accepting people for who they are, however they present, and recognizing that we're all souls on a journey. And this wasn't going to be our only journey.
Yeah.
That there were going to be many more. Once this one ends, there'll be more, because we're on a path of learning. We're spiritual beings, like every guru says. We're spiritual beings living a human experience. And so I have started embracing my human experience. Now, the unfortunate thing is It's not unfortunate. That's a bad word. I'm back in Cleveland now. I'm
Mhm.
happy to be back in Cleveland. We came back to Cleveland mostly because I had to say goodbye to my grandmother by telephone in the midst of COVID. Right, she died. I wasn't there, and that was something I never wanted to experience again. So we decided to pick up and move back here. I haven't been able to find anything like that here in Cleveland.
Hmm.
Nothing like
What
it.
is that? What is that like to not have a place to go to?
It's hard. It's really hard. And so what I do is, well, I do a lot of reading. First of all, I do a lot of not as much as I should, but walking and reconnecting with nature.
Mhm.
And sometimes that becomes my church. The uh, breeze, listening to the wind and watching the leaves and just sitting and watching people and just feeling energy. Sometimes that's the religion. Other times I go and I sit with my sister at her church. I do things, special programs that they do. I attend special programs that they have there. What I am is no judgment now. So
Ooh,
yes,
say more.
I will come and I will sit. As long as your service is not condemning me or anyone, I can sit down with you and break bread with you. And it doesn't matter to me how you believe, if what you believe in is for good.
Yeah.
And so I can go to her church. When I found out that I was sick a few years ago, I went, they wanted to pray over me. I thought about it and I didn't want to, right?
Mhm.
But I did anyway, because my final thought was, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with somebody praying
I'm wishing you well.
over
Yeah.
me, right? Sending me positive energy, sending me healing energy. And that's what we are. We're all energy.
Yeah.
So if you can help that within me and help it to heal, right? And you're holding that good energy in your mind and you're sending it my way while I'm in surgery, while I'm doing all of these other things. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. So my
Mhm.
religion is the world. And that's a problem.
For some.
It's a problem. You don't hear a lot of women who look like me speak like that, especially at my age. I'm 61. And I don't I I don't see a whole lot of other 61-year-olds who are saying the same kind of things that I am. Matter of fact, I start and I just stop sometimes because they're looking at me like this, like cross-eyed.
Yeah.
But I
Hmm.
understand why you were in California, because there are a lot more folks like that in California than in other places.
Absolutely. Which
Yeah.
was, and I brought one of them home with me. I tried to leave him behind, but he wouldn't stay. No, I know he hears me. And
I love it.
he practices Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that goes with that. And it would, my family was challenged with
Mm-hmm.
that. He didn't care.
Yeah.
I cared at first because I was like, oh my God, I know my mother's going to be like, and then call me, what, Cheryl? He's going to go to hell. You need to talk to him. He needs to know God. I'm like, okay, stop. So that's it. That's my experience. And I love where I am.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Looking to take your podcast to the next level? Centering Equity Productions has your back. With our expert team, we specialize in crafting high-quality audio content that captivates your audience and boosts your brand. From concept development to marketing strategies, we handle it all so you can focus on what you love, creating amazing stories. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting out, we'll help you shine in the crowded podcasting landscape. Let's bring your vision to life and make some noise together. Contact us at info@centeringequityllc.com or www.centeringequityllc.com.
Yeah. How has it been being home? In terms of the family and you being your authentic self and not faking anymore.
So I think it's good that I have learned to give people the space to be who they are, and that can be difficult sometimes, because what it does is it keeps me quiet, um,
Mm.
and so I see things and things are said, and I won't. I hear them, but I might not respond to them because the response that I want to make is inappropriate. But that moment is for them. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And so I love my family dearly. I'm glad to be home,
Yeah.
but I miss everything California. I miss everything Bay Area. I miss that freedom and that spirit, that whole feeling of soaring and that all that energy. I don't necessarily have that here.
Mm-hmm.
But a little birdie told me that maybe I should work on trying to create that here.
Hello,
And
somebody.
Ooh.
Hello, somebody.
Pastor Mama Cheryl, you just came back full
That's
circle.
all right. And that ain't but 2 hours away from me. So I'll come on down and sit with you and
And Kendra want to sing in a
I'm
inclusive congregation.
yeah, I'm about to go to the Unitarian Church to sing in choir because they be switching it up. They
I
have
love that.
they'll have like a gospel person sometimes or like a more
Yep.
whatever. So let me go on with the
Yep.
Unitarians and just get to back in the
Yeah.
alto section and see what's going on.
And that's how it was at the church I was at in
Mhm.
San Jose. It
Mhm.
was every week it was something
Yeah, I love
different.
that.
Totally. Yeah.
I love that.
And I miss that.
Yeah,
Now, mind you, there is the Center for Spiritual Living right around the corner from us, but
it's not the same. I know.
I'm like, oh my God, is anybody awake in here? Hello.
They need you to wake them up.
Yeah.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Well, it's just like Toni Morrison always said: if there's a book that you want to read and hasn't been written yet, then that's go ahead and write it. So
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
yeah,
But not there.
and I get it. I will just say that again. I'm not the exact journey, but I resonate with so much of your journey. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. I was raised in Pittsburgh, and I couldn't wait to get out of this region because I was like, y'all think too small for me. Which odd though is that I left to go to college in New York, and I was my free spirit questioning self. But then as I got older, I built community at a very traditional local Baptist church across the street from where Kelly and I lived. But I joined right at September 11th, so it was kind of like, okay, the world's about to come to an end. What's going on? So I kind of fell back into that tradition, and my life ended up becoming very like on Sundays, being in the choir, Women's Day, all that. It didn't help that my 80-something-year-old great aunt went there. So I relate to that a lot. Now I'm back in Pittsburgh. I'm home. I'm around the corner from my mother, and she's like, I haven't seen you at church on Sunday in months and months and months. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. So yeah, I totally. So much of what you're saying is resonate with me. And then anytime you want to come down to Pittsburgh and hang out with us, or Leatra and we have Pittsburgh Black Feminist Reading Group, which is kind of dormant right now.
Awesome.
But we try to create space through. We were supposed to be reading books, but we never could get through a whole book. Just like reading and talking and watching films and just like having our own little spiritual gathering of Black women, like-minded Black women from different walks of life to create sister circles. Because Kelly and I, and one thing I've been blessed with more than anything spiritually is sister circles, other Black women who are on a journey who need to hold space for other Black women on their own journey. So
Yeah.
come on down.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I will.
So I wanted to talk to you about how.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can the whole world look at my child's face right now?
I'm telling you, these faces have been all across the map. Megan, your mom can come hang with us. Don't do that. Don't do that.
You know what? I actually consider my daughter one of my best friends. So.
I believe it.
Yeah, she is pretty awesome.
Thanks, Mom.
Seems too much. I don't know if you listened to our last episode, but we invited Leatra and Meg to join us in some of the conversation because we were talking about what it was like to grow up in churches that, we love our families, but our churches were very homophobic. And so I was super curious to hear from you what it's like to come from your religious tradition and raise a very amazing queer child,
Yeah. Yeah.
and especially being back with your family now.
Mm-hmm.
When I found out I was pregnant with Megan, and we went for the exam, and they were trying to see what Megan's sex was going to be, and they couldn't see what it was, but they kept saying that they thought she might be a he. And so we were like, oh my God, we're having a boy, it's a boy. And went out and got all these boy clothes, had the name. Her name was going to be Andrew because her dad liked the way Drew sounded running down the football field. Drew caught a touchdown. I'm sorry. She loves this story. And then we were going with it, Andrew. And then she came out and they were like, it's a girl. And I was like, wait, what? It's a girl? And it took me a minute to even get used to having a girl. But Megan's entire childhood, she didn't have the quote unquote typical feminine energy. Her energy was always more masculine. She learned baseball early. She wanted to play with the boys. She was really surrounded by boys, quite honestly. And so we knew before Megan ever told us, well, at that time, that she was a lesbian. That was the language that was used at that time, or that she was gay, or that she liked girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I was angry. And I was angry because I tried to talk to her about that on and on and on up until that point. And she wouldn't let us in to tell us. We knew everything about her energy had a level of a little bit of masculinity to it, which didn't mean that she was gay, but there were some questions.
Mm-hmm.
If this makes sense.
Yeah.
And so she told us, and we got through it. And then my first thought was, oh my God, your grandmother and the church and your aunties, and oh, I'm getting ready to have to kill people. I knew that I was not going to be a part of a church where my daughter could not be a part. I didn't care what you told me your book said.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that is wrong with my child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, y'all can sit around and talk about it if you want to, but I will not be in that room. I will not be in that space, nor will I support you by visiting you at all.
Yeah.
You will not talk about my child and then expect us to come around and smile like everything is okay. So Megan could have told us that she could have told us anything and we were going to accept who she was, period. And we knew it didn't matter what other people were going to say. Even if my whole family had denounced us, that's y'all's loss, not mine. This is my child. So now, was I getting ready to have to punch out a bunch of folks at that church? Sure was.
Yes, Mama Sheryl.
I look. That's good, but don't make me have to punch you a few times because I will.
Yeah.
Megan, do you have anything to add about how you experienced what your mama just talked about?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you a Black woman in middle management looking to elevate your leadership skills in a safe space? Then listen up, because I have something special just for you. Join a coaching group of like-minded women focusing on emotional intelligence, management skills, and leading in white spaces. In our group coaching sessions, you'll gain leadership skills, tools, and strategies. Plus, you'll gain a powerful network of sisters who understand your journey. No more leaning alone. Ready to take the next step? Visit www.iamkelly to learn more and join a cohort. Let's lead together.
I agree. I mean, I felt that. I never felt um like a level of not being accepted by my parents. I remember when I told them my mother was angry. She was mad because I had been lying to her for so long. That was literally what she told me. Like she was like, I don't care that you are gay. I'm mad you lied to me for however long. And I was like, I mean, yes, you're probably right. I should have been better about that. But I remember telling my dad the next day, like on the phone, because I think you called him first, and he was just like, we knew. he was like we all knew. And he told me he was proud of me for coming out, and like, you know, him and mom would be there to support me no matter what. I told my brother, and he was like,
I need a hanky.
Well, and he was like, I mean, you know, whatever, you're fine. Or whatever Cameron
His
would.
exact words.
Yes, quite literally. So I never felt like I wasn't accepted by them. And to be completely honest, even though it took a minute, my grandmother actually did come around, and I feel like that was the big domino to fall. But now that she has, I mean, she's like Miss queer. Like she's like everything queer.
Yes,
she's like she'll call me on the phone and she'll be like, Megan, so and so came out the other day, and I'm like, that's great. That's great, Grandma. Thank you.
Oh my God, I love it.
So she will call me for any of the gay news that's happening about anything. And it's the same for Auntie Kim. I feel like it took a minute, but everybody came around. Instead of going what would be the opposite way, which is just, you know, to denounce all of it. Yeah. So I guess, you know, our family is pretty great in that way, that, you know, this is kind of a situation that opened everybody's eyes to that. And, you know, we're doing well. So
we went to the Megan took us to our first gay pride parade.
Yes.
Oh my God, it was out in San Francisco.
Oh, you went to the real gay pride parade.
I was like, oh, you went big time.
You went for it, the first one.
My God. I mean, I'm still today trying to figure out and understand the whole point of walking around naked. That part, I'm like, what is that?
I mean, you in San Francisco, you know, you with the OGs.
But it was a lot. But it was at the same time, it was just a beautiful experience. And even as I sit here and talk, I think the nudity was a representation of the coming out, right? Taking off all of the layers. But it was way more than I ever needed to see. I'm just saying.
because I just want to tell one story from that pride that you guys went to. I stepped away for all of, I don't know, 2 minutes, and then we were about to get back on the train to go back home, and you and Les came, like there were these people with these, like, you know, like the Trump flags that people have like hanging from the car. There were like these giant pride flags that these people had, and I was like, that's insane, that's crazy, like look how big these flags are. And like 2 minutes I stepped away, I came back, Mom and Les are walking around the corner with a big giant, they bought 2 big giant pride flags that they had that were like hanging up in the backyard so people could see them from the highway, and then also in the front yard. And I'm like, y'all are this is so much. Thank you so much. Anyway, I thought that was a funny story.
Yes to the love and support.
It's go hard or go home over here.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
That's amazing.
And dare somebody to say something. Dare you. I dare you. I dare you to say something. I only look like this. I'm telling you. I dare you to say something. We will go up one side and down the other.
I love it.
You don't like it, that's one thing. Go on, live your life. But don't tell me about it and don't come for us.
Don't come over here.
Don't
Mm-mm.
come for my
Don't come for
baby.
me unless I send for you.
Mm-mm.
Um, I want to pivot a little bit, unless Kelly, you wanted to stay in this space.
I did have just a question about the future of the church because we've been talking about that. Do you think the church has a future if it cannot be inclusive of all people, in terms of the Black church specifically?
I think that churches are actually evolving a little. I continue to use the church that my sister attends as an example, and I see them embracing people that I haven't seen embraced under this umbrella before,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing good in the community for everybody. And they aren't having those types of messages about condemnation
Mm.
and fiery hell and all of those types of things. So I do think that there is an evolution in some sectors.
Mm-hmm.
I am concerned, though. I do have to tell this story. I said I wasn't going to. So my father passed away. Megan's grandfather passed away suddenly in 2012. At that time, I was attending a Unity church, and I was close to my minister, and I wanted her to come to the church that my dad and my mom attended to say, read a prayer or do something. And she came to the church, and they would not allow her to sit in the pulpit because she was female. I had a problem with that. I had a whole big problem with that. After the film, first of all, we're sitting here mourning. We made a request for what we wanted the service to look like for our father, and you're telling us what we can't do in a building, bricks, right? Bricks and raggedy ass mortar.
Yeah.
And you're telling me what we can't do. And so when the funeral was over, I went, instead of going and doing the hand thing, I went straight to the back to try and get clarity around why they did that. And they told me because the Bible said so. The Bible said that women could not sit in the pulpit. And so that's why they made her sit.
Did you ask her for the scripture reference?
Oh, he had all the scriptures. He had everything. It didn't matter to me because, see, in my mind, when I look at the history of the Bible and the translation of this book, first of all, that nobody has been able to verify was originally written about a person who they're calling Jesus, right?
You don't appreciate it.
That's a whole other story, but I'm going to sit that over there. Don't come to me right now in one of the worst moments of my life and tell me that you got 2 lines in a book that said that my minister, my spiritual leader at that moment can't come and sit in this building. That was a problem for me. So I let the minister have it, told them they never have to expect to see me back anymore. I think that people, even my age, but especially younger, have evolved beyond that nonsense. And so unless the leader of that church, the minister or whomever, is able to show his evolution and the acceptance of everyone, regardless who they are, regardless what they believe, and become more spiritual instead of religious, I think it's going to fall apart. When I look at churches today, and I think COVID helped. Hardly anybody goes to the building anymore. Most people stay and watching online. And so you don't have all that holy water energy anymore. And I think the interest is slowly dwindling. Now, I also see a lot of leadership falling apart because truth will always reveal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's going on behind closed doors is starting to show. And all these houses that were built on these fake foundations are falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you all and your children are seeing that and don't want a part of that. So I don't think it's going to grow I think it's going to evolve into something different. I think there are always going to be people who believe what they believe because we pass it from one generation to the other. However, I don't think it's going to look like it looked when I was a child or when I was a young mother or even when I left to move out to California. It's very different now. And I think it's just going to keep getting different.
Agreed.
It's so fascinating you say that because my great grandparents founded a church in Louisiana back in the late 1890s, early 1900s.
Wow.
And my grandmother was the one who got saved first. That's the family story, right? That she was preaching and praying for him to find God, and then he found God, and they started this church. And so I always grew up with women preachers, always.
Awesome.
Now they weren't all bishops, which was relatively new in my family's denomination. But I find these conversations fascinating, how we pick and choose our interpretations. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to I'm sorry, were you gonna say something, Mama Sheryl?
Well, I keep a lot of things to myself. My husband and I have conversations around the idea of Jesus, and the realness of him as ever having been a human being. And for me to even say those words out of my mouth condemns my soul. But when you really pay attention to the research, and there are a lot of questions that come up that don't seem to have answers. And what I notice about me is my mind is just blown open now for me to hear and see things that I did not used to hear and see. And I really think that's going to happen with more people as time goes on.
I think it already has. I think so. Not everybody's willing to admit it. I'm not saying it's happening to everybody, but I think a lot of more people are in, at least in their hearts and minds, are seeing behind the veil. But because of tradition, because of family members waiting for people to move to go on, they're waiting for the right moment to be able to say, actually admit, like, hey, I've actually been thinking this way for a little while. But family and tradition being what it is makes it hard.
Yeah.
Mama Sheryl, we wrap up our podcast with takeaways. So I would love just to give us a few seconds to think about takeaways from today. And whoever wants to start can.
My takeaway is that that we're in safe hands. That I can genuinely find comfort in knowing that women like you four are at the helm and are leaders who will continue to make these conversations happen, to not just around race, but around all systems of race or gender or systems of diversity, that things are in good hands and that things are not getting lost. I find comfort in that. All of you, all four of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we are keeping the recipes for sure.
Yeah.
I have some more if you want them.
Absolutely.
I have two takeaways. I think the first is along this theme, which is if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing the work. Really resonates with me. And I think the second takeaway is who we are, we have always been. So yes, thank y'all for a really powerful conversation.
Thank you.
Ken, what you got?
I think my takeaway is that I am on the right path and journey towards my evolution, and that it's okay to continue to evolve. And then like getting more and more old Bali is like actually a good thing. And like like I'm not that much younger than Mama Sheryl. I'm like in between the Leotras and the Megans of the world and the Mama Sheryls of the world. And I feel like there's a great lineage here. And that like, I feel like it always is. The divine feminine thing is a real thing for me. And I feel like Black women, as we always do, are like healing the earth even as people are trying to destroy it. And so I feel grounded a little bit after a week of just being a ball of anxiety. There, I have a sense of grounding, and that like we're gonna be okay. Or as Kendrick would say, we gonna be all right.
Right.
Megan and Leah, I'm not gonna leave without one of y'all saying something. So somebody unmute.
Thank you so much for inviting us to speak on this podcast. It's been it's been great. Thank you all. I feel like, so I have two. I feel like my first is there's healing in uncomfortable conversations, and they are necessary at times. But what's on the other side is a good thing. And then also just a sense of gratefulness for Mom and for my family, and grateful for acceptance. So I feel like that's also a key takeaway to take from this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meg.
I love you, honey.
Mom, please.
Okay, and that was very cute. My takeaway is I just feel very grateful with each episode around the intergenerational nature of these discussions and conversations, and it's like glimpses into the future, and it's just all of these affirmations that you are okay, you are enough, you are excellent in whoever you are and however you show up. I think about our original sister circle with Heavenly Seven, and what that was like for me at that time. It was very pivotal. So just grateful for all of this.
Kim sister.
I literally was just about to say that's either Grandma or Auntie Kim asking you where you are.
Yeah, it's time for Sunday dinner.
Mama Sheryl, Mama Sheryl.
That's my sister. I keep telling her to stop calling me, and she won't stop.
Mama
Are you
Sheryl,
are you making the cornbread? What they waiting for?
No, Mama Sheryl, you just earned your baby boomer title right there with that phone.
Yeah, you didn't cross over. We was trying to keep you in Gen X with us, but
no, you earned it. That's you earned it.
I was trying. I don't even know what just happened.
You can count on the boomer phone going off in church.
Loud.
And she gonna call me right back.
Hilarious.